Every little jab, every minor insult, if it gets under your skin, you've already given away your power. Dale Carnegie would have told you this straight. Letting every comment rattle you means you're handing your emotions to someone else. The truth is, even the most composed people aren't living problem-free lives. They've just trained themselves to master how they respond. Now imagine walking through life like Carnegie himself, cool-headed, calm, and unshaken. No more second-guessing your every move. No more emotional spirals. Just total clarity and control. In this video, I'm going to break down how Dale Carnegie's timeless principles can help you train your mind to act as if nothing bothers you. Because once you lock this in, nobody, and I mean nobody, can control how you feel. 1. Mastering the nothing bothers me mindset. Life is a constant stream of noise opinions flying at you, delays, disappointments, even people trying to knock you down just because they can. Carnegie knew this better than anyone. But he also understood the secret. Strength comes from mastering the art of calm indifference. Picture Dale walking through a storm of criticism letters, comments, judgments, and not flinching for a second. Not because he didn't care, but because he had trained himself to stay centered. That's the magic. You don't numb your emotions, you lead them. When you let external events dictate your mood, you're surrendering your power. But when you train your mind to stay grounded, you stop being a puppet to outside forces. You become, as Carnegie might say, the director of your own stage. The world naturally respects the calm in the storm. The person who doesn't raise their voice, but still commands the room. Carnegie didn't win people over by reacting emotionally. He did it by understanding them and keeping himself composed. You walk into a meeting, a tough conversation, or even an argument. If you show up like that, you don't just gain influence. You own the room without having to say a thing. The people who really move the world, the ones whose names we remember, they don't chase applause or clap back at every slight. They carry themselves with control, like they've got a map while everyone else is wandering. Their strength doesn't come from being loud or aggressive. It comes from being steady. Now let's get into the practical part. 2. Thought precedes action. One of Carnegie's core ideas was that what we think shapes who we become. In his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, he didn't just talk about being nice. He talked about being intentional. If your thoughts are chaotic, your actions will be too. If you react emotionally to every little thing, you're going to spend your life spinning in circles. But if you train your thoughts to stay anchored, even when chaos hits, you take back the reins. That's what successful people have figured out. They've made their mind their strongest muscle. Take this example. Someone throws an insult at you in public. What's your first impulse? Fire back? Defend yourself? Most people would, but Carnegie? He'd advise something different. Stay composed. Smile. Walk away. Why? Because the moment you react, they've won. But when you don't give them that reaction, you keep all the power. You rob them of control. And the best part? You walk away untouched. They're the ones left confused and uncomfortable. That's psychological strength. It's dominance without saying a word. 3. Seeing setbacks for what they are. Failure? Rejection? Dale Carnegie saw those as part of the deal. He didn't run from them, he studied them. When most people hit a roadblock, they spiral emotionally. They lose days or even years, grieving over what went wrong. But the emotionally steady person, the Carnegie type, they see failure as feedback, as data. It's not a dead end, it's just a detour. They don't say, "Why me?" They ask, "What now?" And they move. That's the secret. They don't internalize setbacks. They don't make it about their identity. They just adapt. So how do you train yourself to think like that? It starts with awareness. Practice pausing before reacting. When something triggers you, an insult, a disappointment, a delay, ask yourself, Does this really matter in the big picture? Will it matter in a year? Even a month? If the answer's no, let it go. When you start doing that consistently, you start to build mental armor. The little stuff starts bouncing off. 4. Visualization, Carnegie's quiet weapon. Another underrated tool Carnegie used, though he didn't call it this explicitly, is visualization. He understood the power of seeing yourself as the person you want to be. So here's what you do. Picture yourself in the situations that normally rattle you. A heated conversation, a passive-aggressive coworker, a failed launch. But this time, visualize yourself staying calm, responding, not reacting. Picture your face relaxed, your posture confident, your tone collected. When you do this repeatedly, something incredible happens. You start showing up in real life the way you imagined. It's like building a mental blueprint for the person you want to be and then stepping into it. Let them wonder why nothing gets under your skin. Let them whisper, "How does he stay so calm?" That mystery, it's powerful. It earns you quiet respect without having to demand it, because true power doesn't shout. It doesn't flinch. It holds the room in silence. 5. Emotional mastery equals life mastery. Think of the strongest people you know, not physically, but mentally. The ones who never lose their cool. They don't react impulsively. They assess. They pause. They respond. That's what emotional mastery looks like. Not suppression. Not bottling things up. It's about choosing your reactions instead of being a prisoner to them. Carnegie was big on this idea. Respond with intention. Just because someone's angry doesn't mean you have to match that energy. Just because the world's chaotic doesn't mean you have to be. Picture being in an argument and staying calm, not because you're weak, but because you're in control. That rattles people more than yelling ever could. Emotional detachment isn't about being cold, it's about being strategic. You're not letting every little thing pull you out of character. You know your inner world is sacred. You protect it. And the more you protect it, the more clarity you gain. Stress goes down, focus goes up. Life becomes a series of puzzles, not battles. That shift alone is life-changing. Let's dig deeper. Dale Carnegie firmly believed that what you dwell on becomes your reality. So, when you allow external drama to dictate your internal state, you essentially hand over the keys to your own well-being. But when you choose your thoughts, when you focus your mind intentionally, you stop being a passive character in your own story. You become the author. Carnegie understood that our reactions shape our future. And he knew something most people forget. You always have a choice. 6. Becoming the architect of your reality. Picture this. A man loses everything. His business collapses, his finances evaporate, and his future seems grim. The average person might break under that pressure. They might drown in self-pity, blame others, or freeze up. But Carnegie saw these moments differently. He would say, develop success from failures. Discouragement and failure are two of the surest stepping stones to success. Instead of letting adversity crush you, see it as a mental training ground, a test of your resolve. That mindset separates those who bounce back from those who break. So how do you apply that practically? Whenever you hit a wall, be it a business failure, a breakup, or a public embarrassment, remind yourself, this isn't the end. It's a lesson. And more importantly, remind yourself, this doesn't define me. When you stop identifying with your setbacks, you unlock your potential to overcome them. 7. Emotional turbulence, the hidden killer of ambition. Here's the hard truth most people never want to face. Many dreams die, not because people lack talent, but because they can't regulate their emotions. Think about it. How many people start with fire in their belly? Big goals, bold ideas. And then one rejection hits, one piece of negative feedback, one unexpected obstacle, and boom, they quit. Not because they can't do it, but because their emotions hijack them. Carnegie knew that if you want to win in life, you need more than just a goal. You need the emotional discipline to stay the course, even when the winds shift. He wrote, "When dealing with people, remember you are not dealing with creatures of logic, but creatures of emotion. But that includes you. You have to know how to manage your own emotional storms, especially when things go wrong." That's where detachment comes in. When you can look at your feelings like passing weather, observe them, acknowledge them, and move on, you don't lose momentum. You keep pushing forward while others are stuck cleaning up emotional wreckage. 8. Emotions should serve you, not rule you. This is what Carnegie taught in everything from business communication to conflict resolution. You can feel something without being ruled by it. He never said, "Don't feel," but he always emphasized control, not suppression. Let's say someone insults you. Your blood pressure rises, your ego stirs, you want to react. But ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this person worth me stepping out of character? Most of the time, the answer is no. Carnegie believed in preserving your peace. In fact, he practiced it. When criticized, he would often take a beat, ask questions, or simply smile, completely flipping the power dynamic. That's not weakness. That's mastery. Try this. Next time someone tries to provoke you, pause. Just breathe. Feel your emotion without acting on it. The more you do this, the more you train your nervous system to choose calm over chaos. That's the difference between being emotionally reactive and emotionally strategic. 9. Having a clear purpose creates emotional armor. Another reason Carnegie rarely got knocked off center? He always had a clear mission, a big picture. When you know what you're working toward, small distractions don't rattle you. They barely register. He wasn't wasting energy on gossip, petty drama, or small-time critics. He was focused on helping people connect, grow, and lead better lives. And because of that, his emotional bandwidth wasn't scattered, it was concentrated. So ask yourself, what's your purpose? What are you working toward that's so meaningful? It makes criticism feel irrelevant. When you dial in on that, you stop giving weight to things that don't serve that vision. You stop spending mental energy defending your character to people who never took the time to understand it. Focus creates detachment, because once you've locked onto your purpose, the noise fades into the background. 10. The world belongs to the self-mastered. Carnegie wasn't interested in surface-level power. He knew the real game was internal. He understood something that still shakes people today. He who masters himself masters everything. Think about it. When others panic, the self-mastered person stays calm. When others lash out, the self-mastered person pauses and responds. That's the person others turn to when the pressure's on. And what's more, that presence, that energy, it draws people in. Not because you're shouting, but because you're unshakable. Carnegie built his legacy on this, not by being the loudest, but by being the most composed, the most thoughtful, the one who didn't just talk about character, but embodied it. 11. Power in quiet presence. The truth is, real strength rarely looks like domination. It looks like quiet confidence, presence, calm. Carnegie had that. He didn't walk into a room trying to impress everyone. He walked in with value, with intention. And because of that, people leaned in. He didn't argue to win. He listened to understand. And because he didn't need to prove himself, he often gained more influence than those shouting for attention. Want to walk like Carnegie? Then understand this. You don't need to match the chaos of the world to be powerful. You just need to stay centered while everyone else spirals. That's what people remember. That's what they respect. 12. Mindful indifference. Carnegie's unspoken superpower. One of the most liberating truths is this: you don't have to care about everything. Society pressures us to react, to engage, to defend every decision. But Carnegie would tell you, you get to choose what matters. When someone disrespects you, you don't have to make it your mission to correct them. When someone doubts your path, you don't have to prove anything. Let them talk. Let them think. While they're busy watching, you're busy building. Mindful indifference isn't apathy. It's strategic attention. You know what deserves your energy and what doesn't. The next time you find yourself spiraling, ask, will this matter in 5 years? If not, let it go. Most of what upsets us, gossip, small failures, one-off criticisms, is meaningless in the long run. But we give it power by overthinking it, reacting to it, obsessing over it. Carnegie's way? Choose what gets your energy, filter your attention, and focus on what truly builds your life. Let's keep going. Dale Carnegie didn't teach emotional resilience by theory, he lived it. And what he discovered through decades of studying human behavior was simple. Most people suffer not from what happens to them, but from how they interpret it. The most effective people, the most admired, the most respected, aren't immune to pain or criticism. They've just developed a mindset that makes them nearly untouchable. Let's go deeper into how to build that kind of mindset. 13. Choosing your battles wisely. Carnegie once said, you can't win an argument. Think about that. Even if you come out on top with facts, you often lose something far more important: connection, rapport, peace of mind. Why? Because when you're always on the defensive, always trying to win, you give every small challenge too much of your energy. This is why mindful indifference is such a power move. You don't need to address every critic. You don't need to correct every misunderstanding. You don't need to clap back at every slight. You need to ask one thing: does this serve my purpose? If it doesn't, it's beneath you. And when you move like that, when people see you unbothered by drama, unfazed by noise, they start to respect you in ways words can't manufacture. Because they see you as grounded, in control, focused. 14. The strength of silence. Carnegie believed deeply in the power of silence. In fact, some of his most transformative communication lessons centered on simply listening, observing, taking a breath before responding. Silence is not weakness. It's leverage. It disarms people. It forces them to reflect. It gives you space to stay composed. So in a world that expects a reaction, your silence becomes your advantage. Next time someone says something inflammatory, try this. Say nothing. Let them sit in their own noise. Observe your reaction. Feel the tension rise and fall without being pulled into it. That moment of silence, that's where you find control. That's the difference between someone who's led by their emotions and someone who's leading their emotions. 15. Mastery isn't about suppression. It's about awareness. Let's clear something up. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling. Carnegie never advocated for being cold or robotic. He encouraged people to feel fully but wisely. He knew that suppressing emotion is dangerous. It's a ticking time bomb. But awareness, that's power. He would teach his students to observe emotions like clouds passing in the sky. Notice them, name them, but don't identify with them. Anger isn't you. Doubt isn't you. Fear isn't you. They're just visitors, and you decide how long they stay. This shift from identification to observation is the foundation of emotional resilience. And once you've internalized that, you no longer fear your emotions. You use them. 16. Presence over performance. We live in an age of performance. Everyone is on. Social media has trained people to chase validation, to constantly broadcast their lives for approval. But Carnegie's teachings remind us, your value doesn't come from how many people notice you. It comes from how rooted you are in who you are. When you stop performing for attention and start being in your presence, people feel it. They may not know why, but they're drawn to you. Your calm becomes contagious. Your certainty magnetic. And that's the real win. not shouting over others to prove your worth, but standing so firmly in it that the world adjusts around you. 17. Letting go of control ironically gives you more. This one is counterintuitive, but powerful. Most people try to control everything, how others see them, what people say, the outcomes of every plan. But Carnegie taught that true power comes from letting go of what you can't control and doubling down on what you can. You can't control whether someone likes you. You can control how you treat them. You can't control whether an opportunity works out. You can control how prepared you are for the next one. This mindset creates clarity. Instead of wasting energy on what's outside your grasp, you redirect your focus to your responses, your habits, your character, and that shift, it's what makes you unshakable. 18. Stress is optional. Here's a radical idea. Stress is not a given. It's not a requirement for ambition. And it's definitely not a badge of honor. Carnegie knew this better than most. In his book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, he shared countless stories of people who overcame incredible odds, not by pushing harder, but by thinking smarter. The ones who thrived weren't the ones who grinded themselves into exhaustion. They were the ones who learned to filter their thoughts, to slow down, to respond, not react. Stress often comes from obsessing over things that don't matter in the long run, or trying to manage everything at once. But when you apply Carnegie's methods, prioritizing, focusing, choosing what to care about, you find peace, even in pressure. That peace isn't weakness, it's your edge. 19. The secret to unshakable confidence. You know what gives people lasting confidence? Not looks, not money, not applause. It's knowing that no matter what happens, praise or criticism, success or failure, you'll be okay. You'll adapt. You'll keep going. That's the confidence Carnegie taught. It's internal, rooted in experience, self-awareness, and values. When you build this kind of confidence, nothing rattles you. You don't need everyone to like you. You don't need everything to go right, because you trust yourself to navigate whatever comes. And people feel that in how you speak, in how you carry yourself, in how you stay grounded when others unravel. That's not arrogance. That's real confidence. 20. The calmest person in the room controls the room. You've heard it before, but it's worth repeating. The calmest person in the room is the most powerful. Why? Because when everyone else is spiraling, overreacting, second-guessing, losing control, the calm person sees clearly. They think clearly. They lead. Carnegie embodied this. He could walk into any situation, heated debates, tense negotiations, difficult students, and bring order with nothing but his presence. He didn't posture. He didn't dominate. He simply wasn't moved by the noise. And because he remained calm, others naturally followed. The question is, can you do the same? Can you hold your center when things fall apart? Can you lead with clarity when others react with chaos? If you can train yourself to do that, you'll gain a power most never access. Let's wrap this up with the final and most transformative ideas from Dale Carnegie's playbook on mastering emotional resilience. 21. Build internal security, not external validation. Carnegie knew the more you seek validation from others, the more power you give away. He spent his life teaching people how to win friends and influence people, not by chasing approval, but by offering genuine interest and grounded presence. And that's the shift. Instead of trying to be liked, focus on being secure. Because when your self-worth is rooted in internal values, not the reactions or opinions of others, you become untouchable. No criticism can define you. No praise can inflate you. You're centered. People can feel the difference. Someone who needs approval gives off desperation. Someone who knows who they are gives off confidence. And that confidence, quiet, secure, unshakable, is what truly draws others in. 22. Detach from outcome, focus on process. One of Carnegie's most underrated insights is this: attachment creates anxiety. If you obsess over results, success, status, recognition, you'll constantly feel pressure, fear, doubt. But when you focus on the process, on showing up, improving, learning, you stay present and you stay powerful. The irony? Those who focus on the process often get the results anyway, and they do it without burning out, without losing themselves, and without riding an emotional roller coaster. This is how Carnegie approached public speaking. He didn't tell people to aim for perfection. He taught them to speak from the heart, to be authentic, and to enjoy the process of sharing. That mindset? It applies everywhere in business, in relationships, in personal growth. Detach from outcome. Anchor yourself in the work. That's the path to real power. 23. Control what you can, release what you can't. Every day, you're bombarded with uncertainty. News, trends, opinions, failures, unknowns. But Carnegie taught that worry is wasted energy. And most of what we worry about never actually happens. So here's the shift. Take responsibility for what you can control and let the rest go. You can't control how someone feels about you. You can control how you treat them. You can't control the economy. You can control your work ethic, your learning, your discipline. This isn't just practical advice. It's liberating. Because the moment you stop trying to control everything, you get your peace back. And from that peace, you think better. You perform better. You live better. 24. Keep your mind clean. Carnegie knew that what you feed your mind shapes your emotional state. Negative conversations, petty arguments, obsessive news cycles. These are mental junk food. So what are you letting into your mental space? Your peace is sacred. Treat it that way. Be intentional about the content you consume, the people you engage with, the thoughts you dwell on. Feed your mind with things that build you up. Inspiring stories, deep conversations, meaningful challenges. Because a clean mind creates a calm life. And calmness isn't passivity. It's a launch pad for power. 25. Practice micro-detachment every day. Emotional resilience isn't built overnight. It's built in the little moments, the pauses, the choices, the reframes. Next time you're cut off in traffic, breathe instead of shouting. Next time someone criticizes you unfairly, thank them for their feedback and move on. Next time plans change unexpectedly, smile and adapt. These micro moments add up. They rewire your nervous system. They teach your brain, I don't have to react to everything. That's how you build the nothing bothers me mindset Carnegie would be proud of, not by trying to become superhuman, but by mastering the small things consistently. 26. Become an emotional investor. Think of your emotions like currency. Would you hand out your money to everyone who provoked you? To every stranger who said something negative? Of course not. So stop handing out your emotions that easily. Start investing them carefully, intentionally. Give your energy to people who matter, to missions that matter, to actions that elevate you. Carnegie believed in investing in people, but not in draining yourself for their approval. Be generous, be kind, but be selective. Because your emotional energy is precious. And the more you protect it, the more powerful your presence becomes. 27. Emotional discipline equals freedom. We tend to think freedom means doing whatever we want, whenever we want. But Carnegie saw a deeper truth. Real freedom is the ability to control yourself. Because when you can't control your emotions, you're not free. You're a slave to impulse. You lash out, you overthink, you burn bridges, you self-sabotage. But when you can control yourself, when you can feel deeply but respond wisely, you gain total freedom. Freedom from manipulation, from drama, from regret. Emotional discipline gives you the space to choose your response. And that choice, that's where your power lives. 28. Don't just appear calm, be calm. There's a difference between pretending to be calm and actually being calm. Faking calmness is fragile. It cracks under pressure. But when you truly train yourself, when you've practiced silence, reframed setbacks, detached from outcomes, you don't just act calm. You are calm. People feel that. They may not know what it is, but they respect it. They lean in, they listen. And in a world full of noise, the calm person becomes the leader. Carnegie never said, "Be the loudest." He showed that true influence often comes from presence, not pressure. 29. Power without noise. You don't need to dominate conversations to lead them. You don't need to win every argument to win people. You don't need to prove your worth when you know your worth. That's Carnegie's legacy. Power without noise. Presence without pretense. Influence without manipulation. He didn't teach people to be perfect. He taught them to be centered, grounded, effective, and that effectiveness, it came from one thing: emotional mastery. 30. Final thought: the calm mind wins. In the end, Carnegie's teachings all point to this timeless truth. The calm mind wins in business, in relationships, in life. The person who sees clearly, who thinks before reacting, who responds with intent, who stays focused on what matters always rises above. So here's the challenge. Let go of the noise. Practice indifference where it serves you. Build a mindset so strong, so rooted, that nothing can shake it. And as Carnegie would say, develop success from failures. Discouragement and failure are two of the surest stepping stones to success. Own your emotions, or they will own you. Once you master this, nothing and no one can touch your peace. And that, my friend, is the ultimate power.